Welcome to the spring 2022 semester at Austin Community College. I'm Dan Grangard, and I'm the professor for this course. It's Introduction to Psychology. I've been on the faculty here now for 25 years, which was before most of you were probably born. I thought I would go through my background of experience so that you know where I'm coming at in teaching this course. I actually grew up in Wisconsin, went to high school there. I couldn't wait to move to a warmer climate, and I came down here to Baylor University in Waco to attend college. Hung around there for 9 years and earned 3 degrees. I earned a bachelor's degree with a major in sociology and a minor in psychology. And then I earned a Master of Science degree in educational psychology and then a doctorate in educational psychology. My first real one thing I would tell you right away is while I was working on my doctorate in psychology, I taught undergraduate courses similar to this one for 3 years. And my first real position as a psychologist was at the Education Service Center, Region 12 in Waco. I was the only doctoral level school psychologist serving 81 school districts in 12 counties. If you can imagine, I'd get up in the morning and drive 50 or 60 miles out to some little town, give a couple of IQ tests. That was not my idea of being a psychologist. And when I was an undergraduate at Baylor, one summer, I was sharing an apartment with a guy from Austin, and one weekend came along and we were out of food and out of money, and my roommate said, "This would be a good weekend to go visit my parents." So I came down to Austin, fell in love with Austin right away. I said, "Boy, that's where I want to live someday." And so I kept applying for school psychology positions in Austin, which I landed. So I was a school psychologist in Waco for a year, and then I came here. And for the next 8 years, I worked for the Austin Independent School District. Every year I was assigned 3 or 4 school buildings, typically a high school, a middle school, and an elementary school. As far as high schools are concerned, I spent 2 years at LBJ High School as the school psychologist and 5 years at Austin High as the school psychologist. While I was a school psychologist, I supervised school psychology interns from the University of Texas at Austin and also from Texas State University down in San Marcos. The only school I survived at the whole 8 years I worked in AISD was Oak Hill Elementary. And they move school psychologists around all the time. And so, you'd be at a school for a couple of years and then they'd move you somewhere else. And then, like I say, I'd go to 3 or 4 different schools every week. I always like to say I survived 3 different principals at Oak Hill Elementary. When you're a school psychologist, everybody's your boss. Not just the head of psychological services, but also the principal at every building you walk in and so on. That was not my idea of being a psychologist, and I started a private practice part-time. All psychologists get to the point where they say, "I want to do things my way." And so I started a private practice part-time in the evenings. And, the great thing about being a school psychologist is you get the summers off. And so when I started the private practice, I would, work for the school district all day. And then I would, I'd get, like 8 till 4 or so. And then I'd get off and I'd go to my private office in the evenings and work for a few hours. And then on Saturday mornings. But in the summer, I could do my private practice full time. I had a friend who was a physician, and he let me use his office free in the evenings. And so that's where I started my private practice. Well, there was a student at Austin High who, although she was graduating in the top 10 in her class, she wasn't going to be the valedictorian because she hadn't taken enough AP classes and things like that, honors classes and so on. And this made her very angry, and so she started sending death threats to the principal and the associate principal. The associate principal's first name was Jack, and she sent him a poem that said, "Death be nimble, death be quick, forget the candlestick, kill Jack." And then you always knew it was from her because she had her own little logo that looked like this that she would draw on the bottom of the notes. When you do that, you get to meet the school psychologist. And as you might have predicted, this student already had a psychiatrist on the outside, and I started consulting with her psychiatrist, and he and I really hit it off, and he suggested that I might move my private practice into his office because he had some extra space, and so I did that, and he started giving me lots of referrals. In fact, this physician was the only child and adolescent psychiatrist on both the city and the state's health plan. So we had a lot of children and adolescents coming through our office, and he would often have me do psychological testing on them. And then inevitably, if I hit it off with him, he would say, "Why don't you go ahead and do the therapy too?" A lot of psychiatrists are more into prescribing medications than they are into doing psychotherapy and that sort of thing. And so, I would work for the school during the day, and then in the evenings and Saturdays, I'd come into the office, and I'd be working full-time in the office during the summer. The school district offered me a promotion, but I would have to just work in one particular building year-round, and I didn't want to do that. I was going to have to give up my private practice, and so I resigned from the school district and went into full-time private practice. And I did that for a number of years. My office was over on 38th Street in Medical Science Center. The psychiatrist I was officing with helped me gain clinical privileges at several different psychiatric hospitals in town. And so suddenly I found myself doing a lot of psychological testing and therapy in the hospital. The psychiatrist loved being a psychiatrist, but he hated dealing with insurance companies, and an opportunity came along for him to go to Dallas and be the chief psychiatrist for an adolescent unit at a psychiatric hospital. And so he left, tried to talk me into coming with him, but I wanted to stay in Austin. And so I continued on in private practice for a little while, but then a large psychiatric clinic in Dallas opened a satellite clinic in Austin, and I ended up eventually merging my private practice with that large clinic. I became their chief psychologist, director of intern training, and director of testing. And this clinic was a very large operation. We had over 50 professionals working at the clinic, about a half a dozen psychiatrists, a similar number of psychologists, licensed professional counselors, clinical social workers, nurses. In fact, the clinic was so big we had our own day hospital and our own 20-bed inpatient unit at Shoal Creek Hospital. A couple of the psychiatrists specialized in children. Most of them mainly worked with adults, but there was one who also specialized in geriatrics. So suddenly I found myself both in the clinic and in the hospital working with a wide range age of patients, doing psychological testing. Every other weekend for 7 years, I led group psychotherapy in the hospital with adults and sometimes with adolescents. So I did a lot of clinical work at that point. The clinic ended up getting bought out by a chain of clinics that had their headquarters in California, and they closed down the Austin operation that had fallen into financial problems, mainly due to managed health care. I went back into private practice. I opened up an office over in Westlake Hills, not far from Westlake High School, and started doing private practice full-time again. It wasn't long after that an opportunity came along to start teaching classes at ACC half-time, and so I jumped at the chance. I really enjoyed teaching college when I was working on my doctorate at Baylor, and I really wanted to get back into college teaching. After about a year or two of teaching at ACC, an opportunity came along to also start teaching courses at St. Edward's University. And so I started doing that, and it got to the point where I was teaching, like three-year classes at ACC and 3 or 4 at St. Ed's, and then trying to do a private practice too. I was very busy. And so, and I was teaching a wide variety of courses, everything from counseling to psychological testing, to child psychology, adolescent psychology, social psychology, abnormal psychology. Basically, I only had Fridays to do my private practice, and then an opportunity came along to work at ACC full-time, half-time teaching and half-time advising and counseling students who had some sort of disability. And so I started doing that. So that's kind of my history as a clinician and as a professor. And I wanted to share that with you because I have a reputation of backing up everything we study with a real-life example. There are a lot of professors out there who've never been clinicians. They've been researchers and that sort of thing, but they've never really been out there in the trenches doing clinical work. And so, for example, a lot of people who've written textbooks, there'll be a case example in there that they heard of or that they just made up. I will back up everything that we study in here with a real life case example. And I think that'll help make the material come alive and be meaningful for you. So that's about my background. in the next day or two, I would like you to send me an email and tell me a little bit about yourself, where you go to high school, what you think your career path might be. What are some of the vocations you're thinking about at this point in your life? And what do you like to do for fun? Tell me something interesting about yourself. Let's take a look at the syllabus. It's listed there online for you. You can click on it and take a look at the purpose of the course. Is designed to be an introduction to both the science and the profession of psychology. I mentioned that I was a clinician. I was a psychologist in practice. But the profession of psychology would have no credibility without the science backing it up. And so we're going to be taking a look at both the profession and the science of psychology. We will focus to a certain extent on research studies that have been done that then can be applied to the profession of psychology. The course will assist you in developing a foundation of basic knowledge in order to pursue further studies in specific areas of psychology. Intro to Psych basically is a prerequisite to almost all of the other psychology courses that you might take. The course will survey introductory topics such as learning, memory, sensation and perception, personality, lifespan development, which is another course I happen to be teaching this semester. The biological basis of behavior. We'll talk about stress and health, a topic almost everybody can relate to. Talk about psychological disorders, social psychology, and research methods. The topics of the states of consciousness, that includes sleep and dreams and hypnosis and things like that. And psychotherapy will also be covered. So at the end of every year, or end of every semester, I should say, I do a favorite topic survey. Of all the different topics we studied this semester, what was your favorite? And out of the 15 or 16 different topics that are listed, virtually someone always ranks one of them as their favorite, their most favorite, and another one as their least favorite. So, some students really enjoy studying states of consciousness. Others really enjoy studying abnormal. Some really enjoy studying social psychology. I think you'll find that the course has something of interest to everyone. And I think you'll find, unlike some courses you might take, there is information in this course that you can directly apply to your own life and that of your friends. The textbook is Exploring Psychology in Modules, 11th edition, by David Myers. I know Dave Myers. He's a professor at Hope College in Holland, Michigan. He's a great guy. I've gotten together with him for dinner in Chicago and in Dallas and in Austin. And we have a lot in common. We're both Chicago Cubs fans. And we enjoy playing basketball. He's a guy who rides his bike to class every day, and even in the winter time, and will play basketball with students during the lunch hour. He's a great guy, and he's a great teacher. And I think you'll find the textbook very readable. So, As far as course requirements are concerned, number one, read the textbook. A students tend to read at a pace that follows the syllabus outline. Now, this is an online class, and it doesn't meet on Mondays and Wednesdays or Tuesdays and Thursdays or whatever, but I've set up, beginning on page 4 of the syllabus here, a daily course schedule that I would see. It's what I call a suggested daily course schedule, that if you want to maintain a good pace and complete this course successfully in one semester, I would try to stick to this outline the best you can. And I've set it up on a Monday, Wednesday schedule. So, the first day of class this semester happened to be a Tuesday. So I started out as if you're just doing this on Wednesday the 19th. Hopefully some of you are doing it before then. But notice what day, what topic, and what related readings in the textbook are assigned for each of those days. The textbook is there to better clarify some of the things that I might talk about in lectures and so on. So sometimes it pays to read the assigned modules before you watch or listen to a lecture. That's what I would recommend that you do. Okay. Another thing that I would tell you is, before you read a module, if you look in the syllabus beginning on page 5, I have specific learning objectives for each module or group of modules. A big pet peeve I had as a student was I was never good at outguessing professors regarding what was important to read and what wasn't. I would take a textbook and I would highlight it with a yellow marker, and I would write notes in the margins with a red ballpoint pen and all this kind of stuff. And I put little asterisks next to things I thought were especially important. And then none of that was on the test. I've taken the guesswork out for you. And so before you even read a module, read the learning objectives that are associated with that module. And that way, when you read the module, if you want to know what I hoped you'd get out of it, what I thought was important, it's all these learning objectives. And that way, that's the stuff you can underline or make notes about. Yeah, the other stuff you might want to just for your own interest. As a psychologist, every 2 years I have to acquire 40 continuing education credits. And, these days I get a lot of those from taking online courses myself. And I still get frustrated taking some of the tests. I think, I read material or I listen to lectures and I take notes, and then the questions they come up with, it's like, this isn't anything I thought was important. I've taken the guesswork out for you. So read these learning objectives before you read a module. And what exactly is a module? Well, it's a shortened form of a chapter in a book. I always say, well, what would you rather have? A textbook with 30-page chapters, and there's 15 or 20 chapters like that of 30 pages each? Or would you want a book full of modules that have 7 or 8 page things? You know, a lot of times if you read something that's brief, you read through it in no time at all, and then you're ready to read the next one. Whereas if you got a long chapter, you're like, oh, how much longer is this? And I think most people prefer books and things that, if it's going to have chapters, that they're very brief chapters. I'm currently reading a novel by F. Scott Fitzgerald, and there aren't chapters at all. It's just one long book. And I can't find, I'm struggling to find places to take a break and put my bookmark in and say, okay, I'm going to sleep now. I don't think I've ever read a book that was just one chapter. You know, a couple of 100 pages, no chapters. Okay, so back to the syllabus, page 1. Try to keep pace with the syllabus outline. And number 2, regularly check the announcements that I might post on Blackboard. You know, I would say check them every 2 days or so. 3, exercise self-discipline. You know, this isn't a classroom course, and so, you know, try to maintain pace with the suggested daily course timeline. I'll talk next about tests. And you do need to take those in a timely manner. You know, you can't just wait till the last 2 weeks of the semester and think you can do the whole course. Point number 4 is successfully complete 4 examinations. And if you look on the top of page 3 of the course syllabus, there's more information about the tests. The tests will be multiple choice, true, false kinds of questions. There'll also be a bonus essay question. The tests are open notes, open book, and they're taken on Blackboard. There's no provisions for retests or extra credit or something like that. My philosophy on extra credit is if you're working on extra credit, then you're not working on what you ought to be working on to be successful on exams. And so that's what you need to be preparing for. Another pet peeve of mine when I was a student was a professor would yak for days or hours on some topic, and then there'd be a couple of questions about it on the test. And then something the person spent almost no time at all, there'd be 10 questions. That will not happen in my course. What's emphasized in the course content, in other words, in the online lectures and the PowerPoint notes and all that sort of thing, is what will be emphasized on the test. So, typically the tests are about 50 or 60 multiple choice, true, false questions. And again, it's open book, open notes. On the other hand, don't think you can skip all the reading and skip listening to the lectures and watching the PowerPoints or some of the lectures or video lectures. Don't think you can skip that and then just look up the answers on the test just because it's open book. Most of my questions are written at what I call the application level. In educational psychology, we follow what's a type of question outline where it's what we call Bloom's taxonomy. And the first three levels of Bloom's taxonomy are knowledge level items, comprehension level items, and application level items. Knowledge level items would be writing a definition of a term or something like that, or recognizing some agreed upon fact. A comprehension level item would be picking out an example of something. And an application level item would be taking what you've learned and applying it, making a prediction and that sort of thing. Most of my test questions, and by the way, I write all my own test questions. I don't use a test bank or something that was written by someone else. As a matter of fact, I have written the test banks for a number of textbook authors over the years, including Philip Zimbardo, who was a professor emeritus at Stanford University and probably one of the best known psychologists in the country. I wrote the practice test for his textbook. So I write my own items. And most of them are at the comprehension or application level. So it's not just something you can just look up, but you need to have studied the material and comprehended the material and then applied the material. Back to, and what's emphasized in class is what will be emphasized on the test. As far as the bonus essay question is concerned, and again, this isn't extra credit, it's bonus points. But it'll be a kind of a question that's thought-provoking, and you'll take the information that you've been learning and write an essay. The essay should be submitted on the same day that you finish and submit the objective part of the test. And what you do is, you type it and you submit it via email. You can submit it as an attachment to email, and you send it to me at my email address, which is dgran, D-G-R-A-N, at austincc.edu. Again, this information's in your course syllabus and highlighted in red. Now, as far as the tests are concerned, if you look at your syllabus outline, the first test will become available on Monday, February 14th. You will have a week to complete the test and submit it to be scored, okay? So if it's available to take on Monday, February 14th, you need to have completed it by Monday, February 21st. Notice test 2, if I'm on pages 4 and 5 of your syllabus, will be available on Monday, March 7th, and test 3 will be available on Wednesday, April 13th, and then the last test, test 4, which by the way is not a comprehensive final, it's just test 4, will be available on Wednesday, May the 11th. And it has to be completed by the last day of the semester. So you've got a week, but if you've been studying the material all along, it shouldn't take you long to do the test. In class, when you're teaching on campus and it's not open book and it's not open notes, some students will finish the test in about 30 minutes. Others will take the whole hour and a half. So people vary. Okay, as far as grading is concerned, if you look down at the bottom of page 3 of your syllabus, a score of 90 to 100 is an A, 80 to 89 is a B, 70 to 79 is a C, 60 to 69 is a D, and less than 60 would be failing. And again, there's no provisions for retests or extra credit. There should be no reason to need a retest for a test that's open book, open notes. Okay, if you have a documented disability and you need some kind of special testing accommodations, be sure and submit your letter, your accommodation letter to me as soon in the semester as is possible so that I can make those arrangements. Usually there's not any kind of problem with an online class and needing special testing accommodations like you might need on campus. But every once in a while, there might be somebody who does. The other course requirement is, look back on page 1 again, point number 5. Oh, and by the way, after everyone has completed each test, I will post statistics for the class on the announcements page of Blackboard, and that way, you can always on Blackboard look to see what you made on the test, but that way, when you see the class statistics, you can see how you did in relationship to everybody else. But the last requirement then, point number 5 on page 1, is I'd like you to read a popular psychology type book. It could be a self-help type book, like how to deal with depression or something like that. Or it could be a more technical psychology kind of book, like Freud's Theory on Dreams or something like that. And then turn in a 1-page, single-spaced typed book review. More detail about this assignment is toward the last couple of pages of your syllabus. And, and by the way, I have to approve your book. And the reason for that is I won't approve any book that I don't think will get you a good grade. And everyone in the class has to read a different book. So, and I need to know by the day of the first test, sooner ideally, what book you would like to read so that I have time to approve it. And then I will maintain on Blackboard a list of books that have already been taken because everyone in the class needs to read a different kind of book. When you're looking for a book that would be good to write a report on, one thing I always do is take a look at the back. Is there a long list of references? A book that it's all the author's opinion and they don't cite any supporting ideas or research, I would criticize that. For example, one book I've banned is Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. The author has bogus credentials. He's got a mail order doctorate from a school in Canada that has since been shut down. It's all his own opinion. There's no list of references or anything like that. You can read something like that for enjoyment if you want, for recreation, but not for a book report. So run a book by me. The authors should be, look at the bottom of page 9, the authors should be qualified. The book should be based on sound scientific theory and not just all the author's own opinions. It should include evidence of the program's effectiveness and so on. It should not promise the impossible. There's a book out there called Toilet Training in Less Than a Day. You think a parent could really successfully toilet train a kid in less than a day? That hasn't been my experience. And so on. The book report, and there's links there to sample book reports, a sample book report, so you can have an idea of what it could look like. But the beginning of it should have a bibliographic entry, the author's name, the title of the book, the year it was written, the name of the publisher, where it was published, and then a paragraph about the author. And what I want to know is, how did the author become an authority on this particular topic? Where did the person get their training? Where have they worked? That sort of thing. I couldn't care less if they've ever been on Oprah Winfrey's show or something like that. That doesn't make you an authority. Being an authority gets you on the show, but being on the show doesn't make you an authority. So, I want to know more about that, how the author became an authority on the topic. Most of these books, they'll have some blurb on the outside cover that so-and-so is an award-winning, everybody's an award-winning author. Who gave him the award, Please choose a book by an author that has some good credentials. And then, what were the main points of the book? The sample that I have here for you is, I've bulleted the main points. Well, you can do that if you want. You don't have to. It could be a paragraph form or something like that. But, what was the thesis of the book? And then finally, your evaluation. And by that, I mean, how did the author support or fail to support the main points? Was there a long list of references in the back of the book? A couple of excellent books that are out there. One's called The Male Brain by Lou Ann Brisendine, and another one's called The Female Brain by Lou Ann Brisendine. She's a professor, I want to say at Stanford, of psychiatry. And, they're relatively small paperbacks, and literally half the book is a list of references. It's not just men are from Mars, women are from Venus. This is all my own opinion. It's that this is how women think and how men think, and it's all based on all these research studies. Those are the kinds of books that I would encourage you to pursue. Maybe you luck out and you read a book kind of like this over the holidays, and then all you got to do is write it up. The book itself will be due on Monday, April the 4th, if you look on page 5 of your course syllabus. So as the semester wears on, I will give you some more feedback about the book. Okay. As far as your course grade is concerned, it will be an average of your scores on the 4 tests and the book report. The book report counts the same as the test. So this is a great way to boost your test average if it's lower than you had hoped, or to keep it way up there if it's already a good average. So, test 1's worth 20% of your grade, and so is 2 and 3 and 4, and book report's worth 20% of your grade. Before each test, and again, more about testing, there's no reason not to do well on the test. You can study the learning objectives in the course syllabus as test questions and see if you understand the material. I will also post before each test review questions, and these come right out of the test. So, one of the best things that you can do is study the course review questions, and then I'll try to also have an online live on Blackboard Collaborate Ultra test review session where I'll spend an hour with you. You can ask me questions, I can ask you questions. I always say, who better to study for a test with than the guy who wrote the test? And typically that'll be on a, if the test is coming up on a Monday, then, the previous Wednesday or something like that, we'll get together and do that. I've decided, since virtually all of you are still in high school, that it would be best to have my weekly office hour and test review sessions and that sort of thing in the evenings, because I realize you might be in class otherwise. So my official office hour is going to be Monday evenings from 7 o'clock until 8 o'clock. And, this is a good time and it's on Blackboard Collaborate Ultra, so this is a good time if you have questions about me for me specifically. Well, if you have questions about me, I'll answer those too. But if you have questions for me, I will help clarify concepts and things for you during the office hours. Or, if you've got some personal issues that you wanted to talk about, then that other people might not also have questions about, you can always make an appointment and we'll set up a time on Blackboard to get together. Okay, on the top of page 2 there is, again, my office hours and my email address. And you can always email me with things. As far as my teaching philosophy is concerned, I like to have a good time. I've always felt like if I'm not having a good time, students certainly aren't having a good time. So I like to have a good time. I like to infuse lectures with real-life examples of psychology and practice. Online, it's harder to involve students in live demonstrations like you can in the classroom, but I can have a discussion board where I might throw questions out that people can kind of give their opinions on or lend their expertise on. We can hash things around. These are not required things to respond to. They're not part of your grade or anything like that, but it's a good way to have discussions. I don't know how in the world people grade discussions. There's some people that love to discuss everything, and there are other people that prefer to be more quiet. They kind of keep their opinions to themselves, but a lot of times when those people finally do make a statement, people really listen. I like to maximize the use of media. You'll find that I've got video clips, I've got audio clips, I've got PowerPoint slides, and so on. Audio lectures, there's some video lectures, a little bit of everything. It's not just all the same approach to teaching. I'm not going to read you out of the textbook. That's for sure. Like to provide an environment where you're free to share your own opinions, personal experiences, and ideas. I love a good debate. I can be the devil's advocate in debates. I might totally agree with you, but act like I don't, just to get you thinking about things. Almost any issue, and there are lots of controversial issues in psychology, but almost any issue that I can think of, there are different ways to view it. Some people take one view and other people take another view, and who's right? Well, maybe nobody's right. Maybe the answer is a combination of things. In fact, I mentioned in the syllabus here that debates assume an environment of academic freedom. Input by students and faculty will likely reflect differing viewpoints. A real goal of higher education is to develop what we call post-formal thought. And that recognizes that one's own perspective is only one of many potentially valid views, and that life entails many inconsistencies. It also promotes what we call dialectical thinking, which involves considering both sides of an idea simultaneously and then forging them into a synthesis of the original idea and its opposite. Hopefully, I will make the material relevant to your vocational and personal aspirations. And as much as anything, help you to identify ways that psychology permeates virtually every aspect of our lives. So, I'm looking forward to spending the semester with you, and I would appreciate it. In fact, I insist that as soon as you can, you would send me an email. This is how I have to certify that you've been coming to class. And this is the best way I can think of to certify that we've touched base. Send me an email. Tell me a little bit about yourself, where you go to school other than ACC. This is a course that a lot of people are taking for dual credit. So, if you're going to high school at the same time, let us know which high school. maybe what your favorite subject is in school. Careers you're thinking about. What do you like to do for fun? What makes you unique as a person? I look forward to getting those emails, and I will respond to each one. So let's enjoy the semester together, and I'll see you next time.